All right, welcome everyone to week 12. I hope your spring break was fine, was great, was enjoyable, was restful. Um, yeah, mine was pretty restful myself. Hoping you all had a relaxing spring break. I didn't really do much. It's pretty much um, stuck around Fresno, try to get out of town, but the vehicle uh, had some issues. Had some It's still being dealt with. So. But that being said, um, so we are in week 12, and what I want to do today is just provide a kind of a short overview of what's going to be happening this week, um, and devote Thursday to Bless Mi Ultima, and the rationale being there is that everyone should be finished with the book by Thursday, absolutely. And so we're going to move on from Bless Mi Ultima um, and go right into poetry. So that being said, this will be this will be a short video, probably no longer than 15 minutes or so. But let me go ahead and share my screen and just kind of provide you with an overview of the week's assignments. So let's see here. Okay, so we are in week 12. Okay, and so what we have due on April 12th is the chapter 22 assignment. Um, and so basically you're answering just a series of questions. Be sure to answer all of the questions. Notice that number one, there are, I believe, 2 or 3 questions. Number two, 1, 2, 3, 3 questions, and I believe the same for number 3. So make sure that you do answer all of the questions pertaining to specifically to chapter 22, which is the last chapter of the book. And that assignment is worth 10 points. And it's due April 12th. And so let me click on the next. Okay, our attendance journal for this week is more or less an informal discussion response to Bless Mi Ultima. I know you're used to the journals, but this week I wanted more of a classroom participation kind of experience. So I'm doing this week's journal in the form of a discussion thread. Please remember to reply to at least 2 fellow classmates in the thread. So make sure that you do that. Some of you are forgetting to respond in the thread to your fellow classmates, and that does deduct points. However, in the journal, as long as you provide some kind of effort, you will get credit for the journal. So make sure that you do that, and it's more or less a very informal discussion response. Just tell me your reaction to the novel. Don't leave anything hanging. I may, it, I'll consider your responses for future book adoption. Um, so for the most part, from the responses from the discussion threads that I'm reading, you all have been enjoying the novel very much. So, let's go to the next. Alrighty, so we come here to the film Bless Mi Ultima, and so I do urge you to finish the book first before you start the film. This is an actual cinematic release, and I clicked here, and it takes me to YouTube, and you should get the video. As you can see, I've already started watching it. I've never seen this movie before, so this will be my first time watching as well. So the movie is about an hour. It's an hour and 45 minutes. And there is an assignment attached to the film. And let me go ahead and click on that. And so here, there are a set of 10 Bless Me Ultima questions from the film. It says here, congratulations, if you are here, you finished reading the novel. So please don't jump ahead and watch the movie. Uh, finish reading the book, then start the novel. I mean, finish reading the book and then start the film. Excuse me. um, for this assignment, you will watch the film adaptation, answer the following questions. You may want to take notes as you're watching the film. Um, these questions are a little bit difficult to answer as you're watching the film. If you're watching any film, but for that matter, you will need to at least watch a good chunk of it just to answer all 10 questions. But pretty much, if you're just responding to the film, responding to what you find interesting, any differences in the telling of the story, which is the plot, um, any differences in the point of view, or any scenes that you noticed that were left out, or maybe scenes that may have been added, uh, that happens too. So so you could, it's actually, you're encouraged to take notes, and if you take good notes, then these questions will not be as difficult to answer, um, going forward. So make sure that you do watch the film, and that is due April 12th at 11:59 p.m. And finally, we come to our the last assignment for the week, which is actually an assignment that is not due this week, but it's due the following week. This is a short essay assignment. For this assignment, you'll write a 2 to 3 page typed and double spaced essay. Please use MLA formatting. I've included a link on how to format an essay in MLA in the Student Tools module. And if you've yet to revisit the Student Tools module, it's a very important module. I put links there that they can help with the with this, with the essay, or with any of your work, or supplemental links that are supplemental to assignments, reading assignments, and that sort of thing. So we will talk more about this on Thursday, more in depth on Thursday. But just to give you a heads up, this essay is due April the 19th, 11:59 p.m. and available through the 20th, so you can still turn it in by the next day at noon. And I do that because, sometimes computers can conk out and that sort of thing, or internet connections can go bad. I mean, you just never know. So it's kind of an insurance. You obviously should have everything turned in by Monday at noon, so on the 20th. So we'll talk more about this on Thursday. Alrighty, so that's this week's assignments. Okay, if you have any questions about any of this week's assignments, please let me know and email me. Okay, so just on Thursday, well, after week 12 and week 13, we're going to start our poetry unit. And I just wanted to give you a preview as to some of the authors who we're going to be reading, just to throw some names out there, just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. Hopefully, we have a couple of students who join me on Thursday. Maybe I'll add some extra credit because I haven't been seeing many of you to join me on Thursday. So that being said, one of the books that we were going to be reading, well, not really a book, but this is your only collection of poetry, and it's disappearing under the screen here. There it is. You know, maybe I can move the mic mic out of the way. Speak like this. Okay. So the Elements of San Joaquin by Gary Soto. That's his first book. First book of poems. And I picked this book of poems because, for one, Gary Soto is from Fresno. This is his first book of poetry, and it's based on living in the San Joaquin Valley, growing up in the 60s and in the 70s. And it's still relevant today. There are a lot of poems that are about, there are poems about his childhood, poems about living in downtown Fresno, poems about the fields, field work, and campesino life. And it's a very intense book. It's probably my favorite collection. It's his first collection. It's his most. And I think it's his best book. But it really struck a nerve for me going forward as a writer myself. And it was published in 76 or 77. 77. It was published in 77. And this is a reprint from 2018. But you can find this book. You could probably find the book at the Fresno City College Library or at the Fresno County Library System. With that, there's probably copies around the county, and I don't know if there's a copy available at the Fresno County Library. You may have to order that one online, and they may pull it from one of the other county libraries. So we're going to start this book in week 13. Great book of poetry. We're also going to start, we're going to return to Bordering Fires. We're going to return to Bordering Fires and revisit the poetry there. And so the poets that I'm particularly interested in is Ramon Lopez Velarde's poetry. And he has a really, really great poem about Los Angeles, about the LA River. We're also going to be looking at Jimmy Santiago Baca from New Mexico, probably one of the great American poets in the country right now. I mean, this guy is an amazing writer, amazing poet, gorgeous writer, and I'm a huge fan of his work. And so I actually tried to get him to speak to one of my classes back in the day on Skype, via Skype. That he was raising money for a documentary, and he wanted to charge the university $1,000 for a Skype visit. I can't blame him. You know, he's trying to raise money for his film. It costs thousands of dollars to make a documentary film, but it was supposed to be about troubled youth in the New Mexico and in the juvenile justice system. So that being said, Fresno City College kindly turned them down. I don't blame City College for turning them down either. So we're going to read his poem, Meditations on the South Valley. When I first started reading poetry, he was one of my first one of the first books of poetry that I've read, and I initially thought he was talking about Visalia and Tulare and the South Valley, South Central Valley. And here's the thing: there were none of the poems sounded like that part of Fresno or that Fresno County, that part of Fresno or Tulare County or the San Joaquin Valley. It didn't sound like the rural landscape, the fields, the almonds, the grapes, the cotton, which is down south. Didn't sound like any of that. It sounded different. It sounded like plains and whatnot. And so I got a text and I just got thrown off. But anyways, yeah. So I was happily surprised by all of that, by learning that he was from New Mexico. It was like a totally different vibe. Um, so there you go. So I'm gonna pause before I get to the next writer. Okay, I apologize for that little brief interruption there. I had to take a phone call. Okay, so also from the book, from Bordering Fires, Ana Castillo, who's another Chicana legend in poetry. These are right poets that you should know, um, regardless if you're going into poetry or literature or in Chicano studies or even just in ethnic studies or American culture in general. They have contributed greatly um, to the literary tradition of America, and that's really the point of Chicano literature is to expose you um, to these great authors, these great writers who don't get the notoriety, uh, they don't get the recognition that they so deserve. So, um, and we're not going to stop there. I'm going to bring in the vast majority of the poets that we're going to bring reading will be poets from that I'm going to bring in terms of um, as supplemental reads, and these are some of my favorites and influential. And I think it's a nice mix of the contemporary as well as the foundational. So um, uh, we're going to read poems by Ray Gonzalez, who was a personal mentor of mine. I'll tell you about some great Ray Gonzalez stories. He's from El Paso, Texas, and I studied with him in Minnesota. Marisol Baca, who's a dear friend of mine, wonderful poet, and she's been teaching at Fresno City College for some time, and so she's local. So I'm going to see if I can get her in on the Zoom, and we can talk poetry. Martin Espada, who's not necessarily not a Chicano poet, but his work has influenced many Chicano poets. And when I say Chicano, I mean Chicano and Chicana altogether. So, uh, but he's Puerto Rican. He's a Puerto Rican. He passed away shortly, not too long ago. But he was an amazing poet. My goodness, this man was fierce. I kind of think of him as kind of like the modern day Walt Whitman. Really amazing. Irene Lara Silva, um, contemporary Chicana poet from the Texas area. Yeah, she's got some great work. And then we're also going to look at spoken word and performance poetry. That's a genre that actually didn't get a lot of respect from academic circles, from traditional poets who write, not necessarily perform their work, or should I say, there's always been poetry readings, but the spoken word artists took it to the next level where they were largely influenced by hip hop, by rap, and by the cadence of rap music. Um, but we'll look at some of that as well. So it's going to be a fun, interesting ride. Um, and, uh, and that's where we're gonna go with the poetry. So that being said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and close up shop, and we will talk more on Thursday. So you all have a great rest of your day, and and have a good one.